jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
All right. So, welcoming to the show is director and writer Keith Collins II. How are you, sir?
I am fine. How are you?
Never been better. I'm interviewing a lot of indie action guys, so my neck of the woods.
Awesome.
So, once again, director Collins has just been heavily involved in just a bunch of short films as well as other films such as Maximillion, which is also known as a very cool cult movie by the name of Assassin's Game, and he's currently promoting Rumble TV. He's also done some web series and other independent projects, and so we're gonna just, like any interview, just get a giant sink into the individual and what it means to bring such a bunch of promising projects to life, whether it's a fan film or original work of art, and then building on it and making a feature-length property. So, once again, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me.
By all means. And so, again, you've been heavily active in the 2010s. You made a lot of your work very easy to find on the internet and just keep building on it. And a lot of your premises kind of have a, fight to the death mentality or enter the dragon kind of homage. What were your other inspirations that made you say, hey, I'm totally going to get into indie action films, I'm going to star in them, I'll do visual effects, I'll do some edits?
It sort of was a necessity. Like, I've always wanted to make action, movies. And I was really DPing a lot of dramas. And I knew I wanted to get away from it because, for me, they were just starting to get a little boring. So I started getting into like fight choreography for filmmakers who were actually trying to like make, little action pieces. And then, like, say how Maximillian came along, Assassin's Game, that was something I wrote at that point, was about 20 years ago. And, I finally had an opportunity, enough friends, where I was like, hey, we could probably make this action movie. And they were like, yeah, we can. And we just sort of, pulled our resources together to make it. And, it was friends from my stunt team and friends, in the filmmaking community. And we sort of got together to make it. And it was really a labor of love for like, that 90s action / anime, era. So that's sort of how that got pushed, forward. And actually the spark that actually really pushed that forward was I was in a casting call of Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew. And they contacted me and asked me, did I have a feature film? And this was the feature film that I ended up pitching.
Oh, nice.
And because I didn't end up on the show, I was like, well, I have this script and I'm in a position where I can actually film it and make my first feature film. So I just did it.
Yeah, you don't need everyone's 2 cents if you really are passionate about it. So
Yeah, yeah. And it was something that helped me, overcome the fear of making my own feature because I did shorts and I worked on other people's features, but this was the first one where I jumped to the head of it and actually spearheaded it. So it definitely taught me a lot. And I have to say, each feature teaches me more. I never seem to know as much as I think I know.
no one has all the answers. How could anyone? And I was once asked by a friend, "Hey, could you teach a film class? You've been working on stuff." I'm like, yeah, "I haven't even made it successfully yet. Why? What could I teach you that anyone else, does or doesn't know?" So it is very like subjective. It's like, how do you even? I mean, when you really know, you know. And I mean, people talk about egos and other things. It's like it can be egos are fine when you're actually putting passion into the work and you're telling yourself, hey, I'm going to do a badass job versus, hey, I got all of you guys involved and I'm not making use of your talents or.
Yeah. And I think that, part of the reason I'm able to make, features is because I understand that, filmmaking is a collaborative art project. So I feel like the ownership of it is just as much everybody else who's involved, and not just me. Um, and I think that energy sort of transfers, as we're filming on set, where everybody sort of feels more like this is like a family reunion where we're, putting, this project together and putting our ideas together to hopefully, bring something that other people will like.
Totally. So your production company is Free Digital Rock Studios, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. And you're based out of Ohio? Or?
Yes, out of Ohio,
Nice.
close to Cleveland.
Sweet. And you've gotten some attention from some sites like Flickering Myth. Are you still like submitting screeners and just doing other side projects during the time of COVID?
Well, that's what that's how I ended up filming Rumble TV. I had actually started filming Rumble TV before COVID, and COVID sort of shut down everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Rumble TV ended up, something that would have took us, 11, 15 days tops, took us 2 years.
Well, no, that's fine. That's great passion right there. Just keep at it because other people, like you say, don't have that patience or can't figure out just other options. So that's cool that you were able to find a solution.
Yeah, it really that process taught me patience. It taught me that you can still get something done, and if everybody believes in a project, it'll get done. Like um, it was an experience to actually work on a project that long, and it sort of taught me that time is a very important currency with filmmaking if you can utilize it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Nothing better than that. And more or less, uh, if the passion is channeling through you and like you say, you have it outlined and you've been able to make it make sense to long-term collaborators or other people, then you really are set. You really are.
Yeah, and it definitely, it helps, just we're all just sort of friends. Like we're all friends, we're all filmmakers, so we just help each other do projects, and that's how we sort of are able to kick out projects.
Totally. When you pitch stuffing, do you often like compare it to another movie? It's like it's this meets this with our twist on that, or do you just kind of go for more? Here's how I'd like to film it. Here's why this might resonate with you, or do you do just a totally different description to just get people in the mood?
I would say it's sort of like the first thing. That's sort of like how I pitch. I'm usually like, well, it's sort of like this meets this. So like when I talked about Rumble TV, which also is a long term project where we sort of wrote or had this idea in like the early 2000s, but we watched the evolution of reality television. So it was like once reality television sort of figured out their formula, it was easy for us to figure out our formula. So I always sort of say like Rumble TV is sort of like Real Housewives meets a Jackie Chan movie.
Nice. That's fucking
And-
awesome. No, that's way cool.
and it's funny because like when I say that, it's like everybody can click and go, "Oh, that's gonna be interesting," like so. And it turned out pretty interesting. We were sort of like when it was all said and done and it was over, we were sort of like, "Wow, this came out pretty good,"
Stellar. Yeah. No, that's not easy. So
And it took a lot of time planning because it was a lot of fights. And I'm how I do, fight scenes and stuff like that is I don't really do fight scenes on the fly. What I like to do is like rehearse it. So I treat like all the fight scenes and all the action sequences like a play, and we practice all of those out, you know. So that way, when we get on set, we know exactly how we're gonna shoot. Like the cameramen already have seen it enough times to say, okay, this is how I'll do it, and we get on set and we can sort of just fly.
absolutely. And uh, do you think it's also just hard to describe action without everyone kind of like some people want it to be very stylized and look like certain movies of the day, and how do you tell them, hey, we're going for an independent look and we're going to choose our own visual style? Because it seems like no one can even pitch an assassin film or martial arts movie without just being endlessly compared to something like, say, Taken, John Wick, or Equalizer. And I'm sure that's got to be frustrating for people who are like, no. And because like some people, when if they don't agree with that interpretation or aren't a fan of the movie they're comparing to, they instantly shrug it off when they know damn well it's just comparisons are inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of shrug it off because like when I made a Maximillian Assassin's game, uh, it got compared immediately to like John Wick 3. Like immediately everybody was like, man, it's like John Wick, like, and I was just sort of like, yeah, okay. But also it created like a weird hindrance with certain people where if they compared it to John Wick, then they would compare every aspect of it, not realizing that no, this is a low budget action film. We're pretty much doing this on the weekends. We don't have $1 million budget. We don't
Yeah.
have like,
Who does?
we can't make a whole room made of foam so I could slam people on a fake concrete floor. Like it's all these things that, people don't realize that, a big budget movie actually has that you just don't. And you're trying to keep people safe and you're trying to keep people happy, and they're nobody's getting paid, what I'm saying? So it's so much that goes into making a no budget, low budget film that I think a lot of regular people who destroy your movie because it's not like the Hollywood comparison, forgetting that the Hollywood comparison has the most ridiculous budget to get away with whatever they want.
Oh, so how do you keep the positive attitudes going on a set? Like, have you ever had to deal with a few people who are talented, but they just either need an ego boost or they need a just reminder that, hey, you all matter. You just got to be patient if you want to go far.
I've been pretty fortunate. I don't really feel like I've had that moment happen to me yet.
Oh, that's good.
And
No, that's
and
great.
I sort of feel like it might be because I try to keep things as efficient as possible because I feel like people's time is what they're is valuable to them. So I try to make sure call times are very close to the time that we'll be doing their scene, so that usually keeps them happy. Yet I try to keep cast and crew well fed. But I also understand that Murphy's Law is probably the number one law on the set, and anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So
Mhm.
I try not to really be upset and think about a way to roll with the punches to make changes. You know what I mean, on the fly. Like, hey, this happened, so we got to change this. I think the worst thing that happened was somebody quit in the middle of us filming because they said that they were just having family issues. So I had to just change the story as to why they weren't there anymore.
Oh, dear. Yeah. writing out actors is never easy. And like you say, there's always going to be a cinematographer who didn't frame it the way you wanted, or some electric equipment that breaks down on you, and you have to find some other solution or use natural light and correct it. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's neat. That you know, and the fun thing about indie films, you don't have to really even go necessarily with the whole, hey, you know, you got to be here all day on set. And I have seen other people do that, and it's like, no, acknowledge their time. Don't have them be there all day and don't use them at all, and then demand that they be back the next day and then try to blacklist them. And it's like, no, you wasted their time.
Right.
You had all the time in the world to tell them, hey, I only need you between, you know, like noon and 3. And it's up to you to get your scenes filmed right away. And truth be told, there's a lot of other people who don't seem to be aware of, you know, script isn't exact. Sorry.
I think some filmmakers with their, you know, like some filmmakers like deem their project the most important thing because, you know, they look at it as their baby. It's my baby. And they need to care about it. It's almost like somebody, it's like a bridezilla with their wedding. And, you know, like I said, I look at the filmmaking process as a collaborative art project. Like they're here, yes, helping me do this project, but it's also theirs. So, you know, I treat them with the, you know, absolute respect because, like I said, they're doing me, you know, in a sense, a favor for showing up on set. And a lot of filmmakers look at it as, oh, my project's gonna blow up. But I look at it as, no, my project is hopefully gonna see, you know, millions of eyes and they will like it. But I never like treat any of my projects as if it's gonna blow up and I'm gonna go to Hollywood and I'm gonna be big and you all are gonna like, no, that's to me the most unrealistic, crazy, narcissistic view of being a filmmaker. No, I make films because I want to give an audience the same experiences I got as I was growing up when I was watching Bloodsport or watching, you know, Commando or watching, you know what I mean, Rambo. Like that's what's really on my mind, you know, giving the same experience of me sitting down watching a Canon film, watching Revenge of the Ninja. That's the experience I want to give to people. And that's it. not get rich, not become a star. No, I want to give those experiences to people.
Absolutely. And do you feel like that positive attitude just sometimes is just lacking from various sets? Like everyone wants to just kind of torture and interrogate themselves and then, you know, have fun near the end. And you want to actually just make sure, you know, what's on screen is fun.
Yeah, like I want I want my film to be like good cooking when you could tell there's love in the cooking. Like I want when I make my film, I want to be like, wow, that seemed like that was a lot of fun to make. I wish I could have been on that set. You know, like that's sort of what I want when they watch my film. I don't want them to be like, oh, it was probably like being on a, you know, boot camp or something. No, like we're here to make a project that's funny or fun or, you know, just, you know, to showcase certain things. And people can think straight if they're angry or if they're, you know, have anxiety. And that's how you can even get the best performances out of people because they're not nervous. So yeah.
Well, and that's also cool that you're also just reminding people why you want to make a movie, like what you grew up watching. And I mean, I see a lot of even indie horror people who are all stuck up on, hey, I want to make Halloween versus Friday the 13th, or I just want to just, I think the ones that really do well are ones where, you know, literally a bunch of friends go on vacation and just say, hey, we're at this lodge, let's just make a goofy slasher here, you know, have fun.
Yeah. And in that, and I sometimes I feel like that fun pours through. And you know, as a filmmaker, you can overlook so much if the story is funny. If you see that they're having fun, you can overlook a lot. That if they took it seriously, you'd be like, oh, they're taking this way too seriously, and then it starts making you look at sound or looking at shots and things of that nature that most, you know, filmmakers tend to do. And I try, as a filmmaker, I try to look at it from how a regular person, watches film. And most of them don't care about anything but the story. Can they hear it? Can they see it? But I try to,
Yeah.
go above the line so that way, they can enjoy what they're seeing and they can hear what they're seeing.
Yeah, visual is subjective, but often you can remind people, hey, and I wasn't as fortunate. I was always surrounded by some snobs who were like, if it doesn't look like a Christopher Nolan film, I don't want to watch it. I'm like, well, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, and,
Anyway.
and that's so unfair. That is so unfair. Like you can't get a Christopher Nolan film without a Christopher Nolan budget. You know?
Right. And plenty of people have had his budgets, but not his vision. So it's already it's a lost cause to even go
Right.
there. It's just like, okay, well, just because he's a popular kid in school doesn't mean every indie film has to look like his. And like you're saying, it's also one of those where you got to remind people, hey, we're all in this together. You wanted to, collaborate on this. So if you're really serious about this, you pretty much got to pick their brain and just say, hey, do you really want to finish this? If you don't, like if you don't even think it gets interesting past this point, or you want to just keep rewriting it to death, then, let's save time, like you say, and, make sure this is all good before we shoot even a reel of film, instead of find out the hard way in the editing room, hey, story's not making sense, characters are disappearing because too many actors have walked out on us. It's not making any sense anymore.
Right. Right.
And that is wild though, how, yeah, I mean, you can literally film a movie on anything and you just got to remind people, but can we hear it in any way, shape, or form? Because you can only redo sound so many times, and
Yeah.
many people wanted to do ADR, and it's like your voice is just never going to match. People are just too good with the pause button. They can just see that's not syncing up.
Yeah. And sometimes, the emotion that you had on set, you just can't get that gusto in a
No.
re-recording it, you know what I mean? Because you're not at that moment living it. So you're trying your best to match emotions and stuff like that, and it just doesn't work sometimes. I mean, you can do it and you can get away with it sometimes, but I wouldn't suggest doing a whole movie or anything like that. Maybe a scene or two, but it's best to just try to do your best to get the best sound you can get on set.
1,000%. And like you're also noting, it's even better if you do all these backups, like have two boom operators, so if one goofs up, the other guy rescued it.
Well, yeah, and if you're fortunate enough to have that, that is awesome. Like that is awesome.
Yeah, and it's tough having to tell when, because sometimes it really is a simple, oh, push the button, and you got to always make sure the actors are not close to it. I had pals who were bringing their pals, the actors into the editing room, and I was like, that's a mistake.
Yeah,
They're worried about how they look. They're not worried about where the movie works, and of course they're going to like it. They're in it.
I usually always say, like, don't let them see it until you premiere it. So that
And
way
what they think works doesn't actually work. I had one guy who was a martial artist and was doing stunts. And it's like, that's all he should have done. He should never speak. He should never actually just be in much of a scene. He should just be, he just looks intimidating. He should just be cartel guy number 6, And
right.
he wanted to do all kinds of improvised comedy lines, and he always wanted to have the last word. And it's like, no, this is just a very, improv's not your thing. And, it can work, but you're just going on and on and on. You want to insult people, and it's like, no, stop. He's always was. I always made sure to not. I never involved anyone, but I always made sure to not even remotely go near him. This is like, so, because he would always be like, "Oh, why'd you cut my scene?" Like, it doesn't work. It's not even in the script, so why did you expect it to be in the movie? So
right.
some people got to get the cold shoulder too, and it sucks to have to do that, but it's just like, no,
It does. It really does suck when you have to do that.
So, how would you describe your film style? It's like just in the moment, because I mean, you do a lot of cool kind of close quarters and claustrophobic kind of fights, as well as just close-ups of everyone's face as they're, a nervous wreck trying to get out and survive.
You know, I never really like thought about it. I just always think to myself, like when I'm doing fight scenes, I'm always like, hey, people want to see the fight. They don't want shaky cam. They don't want it too far away. They want to see the fight. So I try to keep it, keep them in the fight. You know what I'm saying?
What keeps your attention versus
Yeah.
what's the cool thing to do versus what's the better thing to do?
Yeah, like I always look at like fight scenes and action sequences. Like people want to be in the action, so I want to make sure they can see it, and they're right in there. And the reason I do a lot of facial shots is because there's a lot of acting there without words. So it to me it's like seeing somebody's face can say a lot. You know what I mean, in whatever situation.
Yeah. No, that's a
And
good point, because a lot of people, I've seen people like have a giant argument over just dialogue, and it's just like, and then they would find out in the end room, we didn't need that scene at all. I'm like, anyone could have told you that, but you didn't want our opinion. So it's like, you body language can say so much more than just a very long speech. And I even had this one unprofessional couple, I don't even know how they're still around, they should totally be boycotted in my area. And they would write speeches for all kinds of dialogue, and they would hire all kinds of actors who not only weren't right for any of these roles, but it's like you expect these people to remember literally 3 to 5 paragraphs, and you're gonna then complain, oh, they're boring. It's like, no, you're boring.
yeah, I mean, they're
giving a
following your
speech.
rules. They're following your rules, and I think that people like need to realize like all that writing, like that's to me for a play, whereas a movie could emulate real life more because you have a camera. So, having that camera can allow people to act with their body, act with their face, whereas you couldn't do that so for a play, so you gotta speak. You know what I mean? You have to speak, you have all these lines of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a movie. Like they might not need to speak. They might just, have to show they're tired. They might have to show they're angry. You know
And
what I
in
mean?
indie, you can break the rules. You can say, okay, we are an indie action or whatever kind of movie, so I can give you more description of the action, even though everyone is like, no, that should only last, one sentence.
Yeah. And that's the other part of being indie that I do like is, just the flexibility of making the necessary changes to make things work. A lot of and some people, are sticklers behind that, but like I look at a script as okay, this is our backbone. This is our break in case of emergency. We need this so that the story, flows properly. But if something happens where we need to make a change, let's make those changes, not try to stick to it, like there's no other options. There are other options.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I've had other great stunt people I worked with, and the filmmakers totally wasted their talent. They were even just as a coordinator, and it was just one of those, just like, come on, out of all the scenes, it's like, this could sell a trailer, this could make people want to invest you or say, hey, I like that. Can you do that if I give you like, $2,000?
Yeah. Like I wish like in Maximillian, I wish I would have had just more of a budget because quite frankly, if I did, it probably would have been a very, very, very hard R.
Maybe, but it was very well shot. I mean, you had that down to a T. You were all about, hey, I want to see something that I can see on my giant HD TV and not,
yeah, like I could tell you for a fact, like the one scene where the masters are cutting up the mercenaries down the hall, man, that would have been straight body parts. You know what I mean? Like, if I would have had the budget, there's little things like that I wish it was like I just needed a little more money, and I could have made it happen. But I had to be okay with certain things for myself because I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because I didn't have the money or I didn't have like the time, you know?
Mm-hmm. So when you are doing some of these fan films, how do you pitch it to people to let them know, be in on the joke? Just like, hey, doing something fan made, we got to follow some standards. I can't.
Luckily, like everybody who's usually a part of the project is sort of on board with the joke. Like once I sort of tell them like, oh, this is sort of what it is, they'll be like, oh man, I've always wanted to do something like that. This will be cool. Like, sweet, let's do it. Like I said, Maximillian was like that call to like 90s action and 80s movies. It's really meant to be more like a canon film.
Oh, nice.
That's in my mind, it was like, no, it's meant to be more like a canon film. So when I see somebody say the acting was bad, it was like, well, that's intentional. Like there's certain things that's intentional, like they're acting more like an anime would. Like if you compared it to say an anime, or if you compared it to, what is it, Invasion USA. If you compare it to like those movies, then you'll be like, oh. But if you're gonna compare it to, like I said, John Wick, which is like, no, that's not exactly the movie that we were gunning for here. We're moving for something more like that. These are callback. This is a callback movie. So,
Interesting. Just having to tell people, hey, and I think that's just it. It seems like, I've had some real snobs how I kind of had to silently kick off a project. They're like, you're making a student film. So how do you even just tell people to be in a good mood and stop taking themselves all that seriously while still doing a good job, you think?
Yeah, it's one of those things where like they almost like I seem to be able to, been blessed to cast people who are also fans of those type of movies.
Okay.
So it's like they'll see a parody film like, was it Commando Ninja, and think that was awesome, and I'm like, you want to work with me. You know what I mean? Because that's sort of where, my, like, once again, I'm not taking certain things as serious as, a lot of people. Even with Rumble TV, like Rumble TV is an action comedy, and I knew like, all right, we're going to film this like a reality show. So there's things that it does that's more like a reality show than it would be a movie. And it's so long as the audience understands when visually that they're seeing something that's being shot like a reality show, then that's the way they should judge it.
If you already don't get that from the pitch that you get sent, then yeah.
Right. And that was my goal, like, to, okay, this time I'm going to make the pitch so that people understand right away. Because I think that Maximillian, the fans understood, but it was definitely way more niche than I thought it was going to be.
And you can't predict reactions, and you still want legit reactions,
Right. Because the people, like, the thing that I started realizing, the more the people, watched Maximillian, the people who love it. Like, they really love it.
Yeah, it was.
And then the people who hate it absolutely hate it. Like, there's no in between. So
That's rough,
I was like,
though.
wow.
It's rough. Do you feel like, just, I don't know, people expect way too many camera angles, or just particular martial artists, and they don't know why they're superstars or why they're so cool? They're just ignorant of the whole process of staging a fight scene, making it look good on film versus time and speed and accuracy.
I think it's a numerous amount of things. I think that, well, the internet really, like I said, it makes everybody a critic.
Mm-hmm.
And they judge the things that you're looking for. They most definitely aren't. Like, they're looking for something completely different that probably doesn't make sense. Like, with, like I said, with fights, it's like there's a lot of safety involved. There's a lot of timing. There's a lot of things that go into play for a fight to, be, the best that it can be. And people don't realize that. And I feel like until a lot of people try to make a movie, they don't understand. And even then, some film, like I feel like even some filmmakers are even worse than the public. Like they'll judge a film, to the highest of the high. And you're like, but dude, you make films, why something like that happens. Like now I'm to the point where I can literally watch a film and say to myself, oh, they ran out of budget here. I
Right.
definitely tell. It's not of a fault of their own. They ran out of budget here, or somebody quit here, or they can only afford this person for this long because maybe they got a name actor for like 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like you could call those things out. So to say that it's bad because of those things is just, it blows my mind as a filmmaker, instead of being way more empathetic and understanding of, okay, I totally understand why you had to do what you had to do.
I've seen complainers, especially when a show is rough and they're not sure where it's going to go, act like, oh, these guys set out to make a bad movie. I'm like, no one sets out to make a bad movie unless they're the Asylum. It's like,
Yeah,
that's the joke. We're making fun of big blockbusters in a crappy way. It's like,
yeah. I agree. Like most people in their mind, they're setting out to make the best movie they possibly can make. And sometimes, they can only go so far. But in order for you to get to the road of making a quote unquote good movie, you have to make something. And I think that people have to, be more forgiving of that fact that, like, okay, somebody comes out with their first movie, they're not gonna make the best movie that they possibly make without, say, money and connections. You know what I mean?
yeah. And if light isn't on your side, then pretty much you got just actors, and you got to just frame it in an interesting way. And that makes up for, however it looks. And it seems like, you've been on all sides of this aisle, editing, camera work, and, directing and writing and acting. So
Yeah.
do you feel like many are hesitant to even go outside what they're comfortable with and challenge themselves?
Yes.
All
I
right.
think that a lot of people are, they're afraid to do it. And I feel like it's good to sort of do it so that the pressure that each role is under, and you can be a little more understanding and more empathetic of what needs to be done. I've been a DP on sets before. So when I was a director, I knew I could trust the DP to get certain shots that I wanted. And if I knew I wanted a certain shot, I could explain it to him in a way that he understood. From actors, because I've been in front of the camera, it was like, okay, this is the emotion I need you to give, because right now you're not doing it. You're not doing it. Like for Rumble TV, there's love interest. And I was like, I need you two to look like you love each other. Like this is a long lost love that you're reconnecting. And because I've done some acting, I knew how to explain it to them where they could actually make it come off on screen properly, instead of just sort of filming people saying their lines.
And that's cool that you can do that, because I've seen a lot of indie directors do the whole unknowingly, like basically tell the actors how to act, and they didn't. Yeah, and I would even explain that to them, and they're like, "Well, yeah, I'm the director. I'm directing them." I'm like, "No. You're not directing them. It's just as bad as if they told you how to direct. You're telling them, they're insulting them unintentionally about how to do their job. You got to ask, you got to make a request." And they're like, "Oh, yeah. I'm catering to their ego." No, you're not.
No, not at all. Like you can't cater. Like what it is you, like, for instance, I usually, when I have the actors read the script, I usually say, if they're starting to forget lines, I said, no, look at that line and tell me how you would do it. And all of a sudden, now they're remembering lines, you know what I mean, but giving me emotions that they normally wouldn't, instead of trying to remember a line for line. And that's how, I work with actors to get them to act more than reading lines.
That's so cool, because it seems like nowadays everyone seems to only know about the micromanaging part of how to do things, and it's like, no, Micromanaging is how you become basically an enemy of everyone. It's just
Right. Like like my thing is, if I casted you, or if I got you in as a DP, or if I got you in as sound, I got you in because you know what you're doing, and I trust that you know what you're doing. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, other than action and cut.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I got you here because you know what you're doing, and I'm gonna trust that you know what you're doing. And
Some people can cross over. Some people who do makeup can also just be a voiceover. Some people who can be doing the casting call can also be doing the assistant directing. And like you say,
Yeah,
I mean, producer
absolutely.
has so many titles, and some people seem to think, oh, so you just donated 20,000. I'm like, well, it was a little more than that. He was actually making sure it was on budget, on time, and or he was maybe going to an executive and getting it distributed by one of those companies that distributes your movie for free.
Right.
$400 later.
Yeah, it's just, I guess that's, for me, that's my thought process as a filmmaker. Like, I don't understand why you would want hostility on your set.
No. Who's been your favorite of your cast and crew to work with?
Who?
If you want to plug their names.
Wow. That's a tough one, because I sort of have I've had fun with like almost everybody that I
That's
work
even better.
my lead characters in both movies, John Denung and Maximillian, and Gerard Prim in Rumble TV. They were, I felt like they were amazing leads, and you know, they just, to me, embodied the character that I was looking for in both movies. And the whole stunt, because most of our fights are done by stunt team, Kane Action Team, and I'm a part of that stunt team as well. And we're just, once again, it's like family. So it's like, hey, we're doing an action movie. All right, we go practice together, and
I
we
gotta
make up
tell my
fights.
martial arts buddies to meet you. Damn.
Yeah, man, that's sort of like our thing. Like, we get together, we make up the fights, and we go from there. I think Rumble TV really was where we were able to like make fights and sort of hone the craft of fight making. Maximillian was like, we love what we're doing, and we're definitely having fun, but Rumble TV was where we were actually honing in on the skill of making fights.
That's incredible. And what made you also just kind of realize, so once again, the passion and the sparks of life are to be found here without worrying about technical bloopers or, people being difficult. When you got to that point, do you feel like everyone else feels your aura, like your positive energy, and that just is a wonderful combo that just spreads through,
Yeah, I think so. I think that because when you're, everybody's looking at you as a leader, and if you're pretty much, happy, you're bouncing, you're like going through everything, even when things seem like they're going down, and you're still like, nah, we got it, we're good. It makes everybody else have more confidence, and just, willing to, make the best out of all the situations that are presented in front of them on the set too. I think if you let something get to you while you're on set, because it's not going the way that you plan, you probably need to take some time and really rethink your mental. Because like I said, I had to realize, like, once I got on, I'm like, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. If you have that mentality, man, if something goes wrong, you're like, oh, all right, well, let's go with plan B. Oh, all right, let's go with plan C. Oh, all right, let's go with plan D. You'll get all the way through to Z if you have to. You know what I mean? Because you'll know something could go wrong. You know what I mean? And I think that definitely helps your mentality as a filmmaker, because it just helps you be able to roll with the punches. The punches of film. I mean, and it's hard. Like to me, filmmaking is harder the less money you have. So it's really up to your attitude to carry everything. Because the more money you have, that's what you'll throw at the problem. Let's be honest. Like that's why Hollywood can make the movies they make. When there's a problem, they just throw money at it.
Yeah. No, that's so well said, because it seems like others don't seem to realize, okay, your mistake will cost you amount of money. So you can even look at it like an eBay bid. What's the max that you're willing to spend on this thing? Instead of, and I've seen people even just charge $40 for an independent movie no one's heard of just to get their money back. And it's like, yeah, no, no one knows what this is. This isn't Disney World where it's an instant, the writing's on the wall. Hey, let's go have fun for, 3 hours.
Yeah, no, yeah, I totally get that. It's and I've seen worse. I've seen people charge for their movie $100
Really? Oh
for a
my
ticket
God.
at a premiere, and they'll make a VIP, and they'll be able to have like food or something. Like they try to like tag on so much to that ticket, and I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. Like
And the
just to go
actors
watch
have
a
to
movie.
pay as well. There's no even just organized Q&A. I've even seen people do a whole free admission for their movie and they played it up like, we want everyone to come out and see it. And it's like, no, it's just because you knew no one would actually pay a single dime for it. Don't be cute.
Yeah, yeah, and just like cast and crew, respect your cast and crew. Like at least have them come for free. Like they
If you don't
help
want
you
to do a
make the
red
movie.
carpet, it's
Yeah,
literally can cost you just like 2,000, maybe
yeah,
400 at some theaters just to book a movie for a day.
right. And so it's one of those things that I realize that it just comes with the cost. Like these are my actors, these are my crew. They deserve to see what they've done for free, and then after that, they deserve to own it. So that way they can see it whenever they want.
I
So
can see
I
it.
make sure I give them a DVD or a Blu-ray, so that they can see it whenever they want. Like that's the least you can do as the director for people who are helping you make a piece of art that you're hoping to get out to the world.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, it's been very refreshing to see that there's a lot of competency out there.
I appreciate that.
I have another pal I keep giving notes to, and he seems to just want to just make a random poster on the fly, and it's just like, yeah, no, dude, I get that you're making like a tribute to like over the top direct to video kind of like fight scene filled movies, but you still got to have a poster to make someone say, hey, that's I know what that is, but it doesn't look so cheap, so amateur that no one will really want to
Yeah,
see it unless they're friends of the director.
yeah. Marketing, once again, marketing is everything for us as indie, low budget, no budget, like pretty much from there, like they're down. Um, Marketing is probably the hardest thing and the funniest thing that you need for people to even look at it. And the poster, the the artwork for it to pop up on Amazon, like that's what makes people watch it. No matter how much you hate, like I might have a certain style that I want to run with, but I know that all right, people want to see this right now. You know what I mean? You look at other
Mm-hmm.
posters that are out, things like that. So you try to, go with what society wants to see, so that way they'll come and at least watch your movie. And I think that's the artist. You got to get past your artist, the artist in you. There's like, well, they need to understand my art. Well, no, you got to reach the people. So you got to start. I hate to say, you got to go a little more commercial with your art, just
I've
to
seen
get
that
people to watch
too,
it.
and I've seen people be like, "Oh, I don't want to be like Hollywood." I'm like, "We're not saying you gotta be like Hollywood, but you still gotta sell this."
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. It's like I don't want to be like Hollywood, but at the same time, there's certain things that do work from Hollywood. It's sort of like wearing a seatbelt. Like seatbelts are safe, so put it on, right? Like this whole thing, with marketing, it is art, but you have to, catch your average viewer's eye. There's no way around it. And because if your artwork could potentially niche you to a small market, and you don't want that. You sort of want it to reach as many people as it can. So you need your artwork to reach as many people as it can. Now, when they sit in the seat, your movie might be more niche, but let them find that out as they watch.
1,000%. And I mean, fortunately, we're seeing some people are now, their shtick is marketing micro budget movies.
Uh-huh.
Do you think it's just getting a little more friendly around the corner? Like they're even doing competitions, especially with the whole 24-hour festivals and that are nationwide. And
I think that it's in this weird way, because as a filmmaker and film watcher, I think it's an amazing, great thing to have, so many people making films and trying to make films, and, because of all these avenues they're making films. But also on the other end, it sort of hurts because as we put our movies on market, there's now a flood of other movies on the market that nobody can just find you. And you're in a sea of multiple, movies now, and it puts you in a position where you have to somewhat probably, if you have any money, put that in the marketing so that you get people to actually see the movie. You know what I mean? Outside of, friends and family or people who, knew that the movie, even existed from initial phases. So, I feel like it's sort of a double-edged sword, where it's like, I'm happy to see so many people doing it. And I'm happy to see so many avenues where people can see it, but also at the same time, it's being flooded now with so much content that nobody necessarily can just find your stuff.
Totally. There was this one movie that came out rather recently, and I mean, like, it premiered like at festivals, the internet, and it's now on Showtime. It's called Agent Revelation. Have you heard of it?
I think I've heard of it.
What was really cool is the main star, Derek Ting, was, pretty much just made an extension, much like you, just a short film. And then he decided to kind of do a quasi sequel, quasi just standalone movie. And I mean, even one of the reviewers was like, this is a micro budget Body Snatchers meets The Matrix. And it helps that it's got some decent actors. I mean, even Michael Dorn, or from Star Trek, is doing a key role in this. So it's like, so he had a lot of things on his side. Cool poster, good visual look, cool idea, and he got everyone's attention, and it's got a decent rating. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, that's how you got to do it. Versus, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it really shows that marketing is the strongest thing you could have as an independent filmmaker. If you can get it to groups of people, or get that marketing to a large amount of eyes, I think that definitely helps. I mean, of course, having a good product afterwards will definitely probably push it forward even more, but marketing, sadly, is more important than I think we would like it to be.
Yeah, I mean, and then I've seen other people is like, they want to work with all these various names. It's like, well, you can only afford one at a time.
Yeah, because you're already low budget, and if you're doing, if you got any type of budget, you're probably a quarter or more of your budget is going to this star that you have to, find a way to use for more than 15 minutes in the movie and then schedule their one day.
And they can tell if they think it looks like a Photoshop from like one of the giant, scenes in the movie, or it's all in, the trailer also has to be good. It's like, there's so many factors. Cause like I say, I mean, video store junkies know what they are. And usually they can defend that a movie was ignored if they're already just looking for something different. But if it just looks like just another just generic, Lifetime, or even, don't get me wrong, there's a bad movie crowd as well, but I mean, there's even movies where you're like, yeah, this not, if someone makes a sci-fi horror movie, like just a random creature feature, and it's bad even by, to where they're like, hey, sci-fi channel wouldn't even pick that up, that says something. And like you say, when you're doing action, you gotta somehow just, there's gotta be some kind of hook, and it's just like, so you basically chose, a hard target surviving the game type formula, and that, that's an instant win. People like stuff where people have to hunt or be hunted, because you can be creative, and it's kind of like Shakespeare. You're making fun of a common trend, a common trope.
Yeah, you like throw your spin on it. And it makes it different enough that people will appreciate it. And, once again, you're putting in that movie things that are familiar, and you do that like I said, you if you're making a dish this, you want it to taste good, is like that home cooking. That's sort of what you do with that movie. You're trying to put in those ingredients that that these fans will like. And for me, it was the action, it was the fight scenes, it was the fight to the death story, and I was like, all right, now I want it to be a little more anime. I want it to be a little more like this or that. And I sort of want the story to be different in the aspect that there are close ties amongst each other. There's little things like that. Because my goal, even in Maximillian, was to make likable characters. Like, I was like, I need them to be likable so that when they die, it matters. And rather than, like a horror movie, you'll have a couple teens where you're just like, they're terrible people. I'm not surprised they're gonna die.
Yeah. You think many people have too many like small moments in their films to where it's just like, yeah, you're just killing time here.
Yeah, and that's why Maximillian is so short. Because I wanted to trim fat. I was like, I want to make an action movie that feels like it's an action movie, and instead of trying to slow it down just to pad in more time or things like that. Because it was suggested to me multiple times before I even put it out. Well, why don't we put a flashback scene, or why don't we put this? And I was like, no. I was like, I'd rather it just, hit its marks and hit its marks well than to make it slow down and then, have people, critique it worse. So, I tried to make sure within the first 2 minutes there was action, and then within the first 10 minutes, it was just going to be a thrill ride.
Totally. Any projects you would like, just any other things on the side you'd like to promote or that you would love to do in the future?
I actually finished a surprise, like a short film for a contest through another filmmaker's like Facebook group called the Strictly No Budget Filmmaking Group.
That's cool.
The name of the film itself is called Fall Hard, and it is a action comedy. An action comedy where these bounty hunters are going in a building to collect a bounty who's heavily protected. So it's 20 minutes short, and I thought it was genuinely funny, and we've been highly commended on the fight scenes in it. So that makes me happy, because that means we're definitely moving in the right direction with our action sequences and fight scenes. And we filmed it with cell phones.
Really? Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
And just other kinds of premises. Well, I mean, I don't want to have you spill the beans and get that stolen, but I mean, just like other genres you'd like to do, or sticking with action.
I've been, for some odd reason, a horror movie, a supernatural horror movie has been sort of poking at me, and I've been sort of really thinking hard if I want to like delve into horror, because I absolutely love action and I love martial arts, but I don't know what's been going on. Like in my mind, I've been wanting to do like a really good ghost story.
Oh, that's cool.
So
something different.
I'm hoping that once I flesh out the idea of that whole thing, I may venture into that form of filmmaking.
Oh, way cool. Way cool. And this was a delight to talk to you once again.
Yes, it was absolutely fun.
And again, just keep remaining safe out there.
Yeah. You too. You too. Because that coronavirus, boy.
Oh, film a movie on Zoom. Everyone passes it off to the other person.
That's an idea. Now that is an idea. That is an idea.
I've seen some people pass it around and no one wanted to do anything with it. And it's like, no, you should totally do something with that. That'd be funny.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, just keep your passion going,
Yes, and please, Rumble TV will hopefully be out sometime next year. But this year in Ohio, it will be premiering May 27th. I'm at one of the local theaters, Atlas Lakeshore Theater, which is like in Euclid, Ohio. And I'm hoping to get a national release by next year.
Absolutely. And, hopefully, conventions will be open a bit more. I mean, they're open in some states, but I mean,
right,
maybe you can
right.
some screeners and all that. But yeah.
And I'm hoping, that I'm putting it in film festivals in hopes that I'll actually be able to go to one.
Right.
But we'll see. We'll see if I'll be going to it from my computer or will I be going to it in person. I'm hoping the latter.
Well, I'm glad that again you're accomplishing what you want in your dreams and unleashing them on film. So
yes, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, any kind of satisfaction that can happen, and this is why I do these interviews. It's very inspiring, and I hope other people can be inspired. And instead of just, hey, let's just, oh my God, you got to see the movie. It's like, yeah, you got to see the movie. Now let's everyone get together and make independent stuff instead of complaining that they don't like what they saw at their local Metroplex.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that would help tremendously if more people just, don't be a part of the problem and complain. Just make something, create, make what you want to see.
We'll return after these messages.
JURS Podcast is proud to promote AutoCorrect, an independent film company with experienced industry professionals who can serve all your film industry needs. They include self-tapes, voice actor recordings, demo reel editing, script revisions, headshots, and much more. They're actor correct at your request. Book them on Instagram.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new Podcast Cure-All, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
as needed and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be a
could you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
Greetings, friends. My name is Dean Legiro, and I'm the host of the 3324 podcast. I invite you to join me and my lifelong friend Eric Kuber to come with us as we discuss the music and movies that shaped our life. Each week, we'll pick an album or film that we really connect to, and not only give you some great info and trivia, but also discuss, debate, and celebrate what it means to us and the journey it took us on. We also look forward to hearing from you and giving us some of your picks for us to check out and discuss. I think it'll be a really fun experience, so come along with us for the ride. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider and at 3324.buzzsprout.com. Thanks for your time, and welcome to the 3324 family.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With a one-liner plot holes and gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy at eilfm.podbean.com.
We now continue with our program.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up